Lily gives a nervous giggle at her sister's antics as Hanako takes a wine bottle. So, what do you think, Lily? She rests her elbow on the table and pinches the bridge of her nose, thinking things through. She really doesn't seem to be able to keep up with her sister. Well, it's already here. We may as well have some. No sooner does she say it than I take a quick look around the room for glasses. A small groan above me reminds me that Lily retired to rest on her bed for a bit a few minutes ago. Almost completely drained of energy, I managed to stand up and drag myself to the side of the bed, sitting down and leaning my back against it. Good God, I say. Ugh, comes the voice from the bed. Lily's groan sounds lifeless. Too much to drink. My head hurts. Yeah, too much to drink, I say. I rest my head back and idly stare at the ceiling. What an unmitigated disaster. Like proper idiots, we all drank the night away with one glass after another. Hanako simply fell to the side asleep, and it's a miracle I don't feel as ill as Lily. Hey, Hisao, I'm sorry about today, she says. I didn't think this would happen. It's fine, Lily. To tell the truth, I had a lot of fun today. Really? I think Hanako did too. No, she certainly did. There's another short silence before another groan resounds from the supine Lily. You okay? As you said, I just drank too much. What's the time? The time? It's... I quickly look at my wristwatch, its numerals barely legible in the gloom. About midnight, I say. Curfew's in effect then, Lily replies. Yeah, guessed as much. We'll all have to sleep here for tonight. As soon as I say it, I hear the sheets moving as Lily starts to sit up. Hanako? Ah, no. Go back to sleep. Don't try to get up, I say. Hisao, I have to. You're in worse shape than me by any stretch. Get some rest. But what about... I'll grab some spare blankets and put them over her. Don't worry. As I give a deep yawn and start to retrieve them, I hear her lie back down with a soft thud. Thank you, Hisao. No problem. It's the least I can do. You look outright wasted. I'm not wasted. Just a little bit tired. She starts pouting, a slight slur beginning to distort her words as the alcohol takes hold of her again. I grab a couple of blankets rolled up at the end of her bed. Quietly walking over to Hanako, I carefully lay the blankets over her peacefully sleeping figure, making sure not to wake her up. The thick smell of alcohol coming off her breath makes me doubt she'd wake up no matter what I did, though. I stand and take one last measure of the room. 2 girls, both very drunk, and one guy sleeping overnight with them in the female students' dorm. What a scandal that would be if it broke out. As I move to sit back down at the side of the bed, I steal one last glance at Lily. Her sprawling, disheveled figure lies resting peacefully, slightly turned to the side. I crouch down to get a better look. Her white skin blends in with the white pillow of the bed, a look of slumber-born peacefulness on her face. Usually she seems so confident and forward, always there and caring for Hanako. Now, though, she seems painfully delicate. I think back to Hanako's presence. I thought it'd be a nice occasion for her, but I'd hardly expected it to be so moving. One birthday after another, year after year. Just she and Lilly, all alone. I guess it wasn't just the present she liked. Resigning myself to an uncomfortable sleep, I sit down at the side of the bed once again and rest my tired arms beside me. Hey, Hisao. Lily's voice is so quiet I can barely hear it. She must be on the verge of sleep. Yeah? Thank you, she says. Thank you? For what? For being here. That's okay, I say. As I hear a deep breath, it's obvious Lily's gone to sleep. After closing my eyes, it doesn't take long for slumber to take me as well. Hisao? Hisao, are you? The soft, barely audible voice lingering in my ears slowly wakes me. I wish I could be awoken like this more often. With a mumble, I slowly open my... Whoa! Taken by surprise at the face hovering curiously mere millimeters from mine, I make our heads collide with a harsh thud. The impact on our foreheads causes both of us to fall backwards and yelp in pain, Lily sounding more like a squeak toy than a person. Ow, ow, ow! I slowly rub my forehead with one hand, supporting myself with the other. Lily lies a few feet ahead, doing just the same, her face obviously pained. Sorry, I say. Your face was kinda close and I acted on reflex. Are you okay? My head, Lily says. It seems she's not actually okay. Come to think of it, I doubt that the impact alone is what's causing her head so much pain. Hangover, I say? You drank a fair bit last night. She silently nods in confirmation as I lever myself up. I offer a hand to her and help her back to her feet. Glancing beside her, I find that Hanako's still fast asleep. It's not fair, she says. I only drank as much as you did. That's very different from what I remember, I say. And anyway, girls have a lower tolerance than men. That doesn't help, she says. Fine, I'll get you a glass of water. Just be careful not to trip over Hanako. I rub the sleep out of my eyes, or at least some of it, as I walk to the counter. Tending to someone with a hangover isn't the way I like to spend a morning. It only takes a few seconds for the glass to fill, the clear water reflecting the sliver of light that makes it through the thin curtains. It looks like Lily's taken a seat on the side of the bed. I walk over to her while taking care to step over the peacefully sleeping Hanako and place the glass into her outstretched hands. Thank you. No problem. I take a seat next to her, the soft bed having a surprising amount of give. She drinks slowly and methodically. A long silence passes with only Hanako's soft breathing to be heard. With some measure of guilt, I look at Lily's face and attempt to read her expression. Her brow is furrowed, and she looks to be lost in thought. For a moment I hesitate, but eventually place a hand on her shoulder and attempt to reassure her. I didn't expect her to flinch rather noticeably at that, though. Sorry, I say. I didn't mean to. Lily quickly shakes her head in a manner somewhat more violent than usual for her. She takes a long breath to steady herself before letting her head sink. I must look terrible right now. I moved to protest, but quickly realized that it would be futile to do so. That said, I want her to open up more. If you want to talk about anything, I'm here, I tell her. Lily gives a self-deprecating snort as if to mock her own emotions. There's just a lot happening right now, she says. I'm sorry for being so strange recently, especially back when we were in town. Even now, I'm a bit confused about everything. Believe me, I say, I know how that feels. She smiles wistfully, resting a cheek on the backs of her fingers. We're a couple of broken young fools, aren't we? She says. Come on, don't say that. Come graduation, we'll be back out into the real world, I say. The real world. Sometimes I surprise myself with the way I think about things. I guess the strange, divorced feeling of Yamaku and the surrounding town, compared to the outside world, still hasn't become natural. Maybe it never will. It's strange in hindsight. Being isolated from society like this doesn't feel as bad as it probably should. A wry grin on her face, Lily seems to share the same sense of amusement at the idea. Eventually, though, her smile drops. I'll be going back to Scotland for a week or two soon, she says. Is that why we had to reschedule Hanako's birthday party? She gives an affirmative nod. You'll be able to see your family again at least. You're not looking forward to it? I haven't met my family in 6 years, she says. I don't even know how to act around them anymore. Wait, what? My mouth hangs open as I try to process what she just said. If she's 18, that means she'd have been only 12 when they left. I may have seen very little of my parents, what with both of them working long hours, but that's... I feel utterly useless as I struggle to find some way to respond. That's... But why? Why did they leave? Or why are they inviting Akira and me back? I think for a moment. Both, I suppose. My father's business has its headquarters in Scotland, and an executive position became available for him there. In the end, he had to move permanently. My mother followed him, but Akira and I stayed in Japan for the sake of both Akira's job within the Japanese branch of my family's company and my education. As for the latter, one of my aunts is gravely sick. Ah, I'm sorry, I tell her. Don't be. It feels strange, really. We're being summoned there for her, yet we've barely met before. I can't even remember the sound of her voice. Equally strange is the total lack of antipathy she feels toward her family for doing such a thing. I can't help feeling slightly humbled. That said, her wistful exterior is just hiding her emotions. Seeing her like this is depressing. Knowing what to do, I lift myself up off the bed. Lily notices the bed's movements, her head perking up and her hand reaching sideways to feel where I was. Hisao? I walk over to my bag, still leaning against the wall. Unbuckling the front flap and retrieving the opaque bag from within, I take the small plain box in my hands. Hold your hands out, Lily. She looks surprised for a moment, but eventually acquiesces. I'm amused by her look of curiosity when I place the music box into her open palms, her typically delicate way of handling it making it seem as if it were fragile enough to break if breathed on. She wordlessly brings it in front of her face, her slender fingers feeling out its contours and patterning. Eventually, her fingers find the recessed line between the lid and the body of the box, and her thumb effortlessly pops open the lid. I take a seat on the bed next to her, watching her face silently and intently. She sits completely motionless as she listens to the diminutive tinny melody, her mouth just slightly open. It takes a long while before she closes the lid with a small snap, bringing the curtain down on the miniature performance playing in her hand. The smile on her face, gentle and wistful, shows that I made the right decision. Think of it as a going-away present for your trip to Scotland, I tell her. I will. A restless shuffling can be heard from the floor in front of us, the sound having woken Hanako. She climbs out of the blankets I put on her, looking befuddled and wiping the sleep from her eyes. I see you're finally up, I say. What? Hanako looks around the room with her eyes only half open, her mind far from being as awake as her body. Her dazed state makes me and Lilly chuckle. As Lilly gets off the bed and tends to Hanako, I take one last look around the room. I guess I'd better be going then. There'll be questions if I'm seen leaving the girls' dormitories in the morning. Goodbye, Hisao. Oh, goodbye, Hanako says. I stand and walk to the door, picking up my somewhat lighter bag along the way. After I leave the room and enter the hallway, though, I hear Lily's footsteps behind me. What's wrong? I say. Without a word, she strides up to me. I freeze as I feel her hand slide onto my cheek, seemingly every nerve taking in the feelings of her fingers and palm upon it. Immediately after, her face slowly moves next to mine, a light, momentary touch of her lips brushing against my other cheek. For a moment, everything seems to stand still. I absent-mindedly bring my fingers to my cheek, as if to try and recapture that fleeting feeling. Lily, I say. That's my thank you, Hisao. Thank you? For your present. Have a nice day in school, she says. And with that, she disappears behind her door and gently closes it, the muffled voices of her and Hanako audible through it, much as they were yesterday night. I think I'd be hard-pressed not to have a nice day after that. I walk away with a certain spring to my step. I think there were some people around that glanced at me emerging from the girls' dormitory building, but I find it difficult to care. So a somewhat different ending to the birthday party than what we saw in the Hanako's Path. This one ending up with, as I said, Akira not partaking in the bottle, so the three of them drinking all of them, and ending up all crashing drunkenly in Lily's room. I'm assuming locking the door, as they never mention it. With the night ending up with him crashing out on the floor next to Lily's bed, and Hanako in the corner, rather than in the previous, of course, where he escorts Hanako back to her room at Lilly's suggestion, and then Hanako drunkenly puts the moves on him. This evening ends up to be a little bit more innocent than the other one was. And then in the morning, we find out that Lily is going to be leaving and going to Scotland. The trip to see her sick aunt comes up. We also get the bit of background history that I don't think we got in Hanako's path, that Lily and Akira have been living here on their own for 6 years, that her family moved back to Scotland whenever she was only 12, and that she hasn't seen any of them other than, talking to them on the telephone in 6 years. As she says, I don't even know how to act around them anymore. So explains a lot of why perhaps she has more of a mothering instinct about her whenever it comes around to Hanako and her other friends, because she tries to make up for being the mother she never had. Hisao, being rather heartbroken at this story and being totally unable to comprehend what that must be like, realizes that now is the time and goes and gives her the music box. The little gift that he picked up at the same time that he got Hanako's doll, and which seems to have its desired effect. She really does seem to appreciate it. It seems to cheer her up quite a bit, and in the end, she makes no secret of how appreciative she is for it and how much it has touched her. And as Hisao says, who cannot have a good day after that?